Hi, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Nighttime here again on a Saturday night in Adelaide, and I thought I'd just share some thoughts that have been mulling around in my mind ever since I read a short article in a magazine. I'm going to read some of it out to you in a minute, just recently. And so this is something of an essay, I guess, tonight, to make us think, make me think, make you think, come to some conclusions, maybe, maybe not. So I've got notes up here, so I'm going to be reading off the computer. I'll probably cough a bit. Be reading off the computer, and I'll flick back to maybe show you some photos afterwards, just to maybe illustrate some of what I'm talking about. So where are we? So the question I'm posing to start with is, do you really need a camera? Do you really need to take pictures? And I will pose a few more questions as I work my way through this short essay. Who's heard of Galen Rowell, R-O-W-E-L-L? First name is Galen, G-A-L-E-N. If you're a keen photographer, you probably have. Unfortunately, he died tragically in a plane crash in about 2002, along with his wife and some other people, I believe. But you can look him up on Wikipedia and find out all about Galen Rowell. Galen Rowell, I came across him because I used to be a frequent reader of this magazine. It's an American magazine, Outdoor Photographer. And Galen Rowell was a contributor to this, along with some other famous photographers. And I came across this article that prompted me to do this little essay today, I guess. I could read out all of some notes I put down here about Galen Rowell. I got off Wikipedia, but I've got a book here, which is one of his famous books called, what's it called? In the Throne Room of the Mountain Gods, about the history of mountaineering. I think I've got that one here. That's one of his more famous books. And so I've been quite a keen reader and sometimes follower of Galen Rowell. This little article here, when he was writing for the Outdoor Photographer, this edition was back in October 1995, and it's called The Real Thing. I'm going to read it out to you. Excuse me. Does photography take away from the real experience of the world? If you ask my wife, she'll tell you, yes, it does. I gave up photography. This is an adventuring travel guide talking to Galen Rowell. I gave up photography after I forgot my camera as I was rushing my clients into a zodiac. A pod of killer whales began surfacing all around our raft. While everyone else was looking through a camera or futzing with their photo equipment, I witnessed a once-in-a-lifetime event that I can still see clear as day. I realised then and there that life isn't about looking at the world in pictures. I don't understand, this is what the guide was saying to Galen. I don't understand people laying out big bucks to glimpse wild scenes in person that anyone can see on the Discovery Channel or on the internet, as we do these days, then getting so involved with taking pictures that they lose out on seeing the real events. At least you've got a valid reason. They pay you to take pictures. He did a lot of assignments for National Geographic and other people. He said, I assured the guide that most of my wildlife work resulted from my own personal passion, quite apart from being handed great assignments on a platter. Since then, I have a better answer. A once-in-a-lifetime whale sighting without a photograph that leads me to a different conclusion. And he talks about how he went on this expedition in the Arctic Ocean with Eskimo whalers who were catching whales to eke out a living. And he had visualized all these images and that he was going to take a photo of, and he spent some time with these Eskimos, watching them go after whales. And he was out there watching these Eskimos trying to harpoon some of the whales. And he said, I took a few shots. I felt quite satisfied with record shots that I knew wouldn't be entirely sharp with multiple teleconverters. And to date, only one of the 40 Eskimo whaling crews had been successful. I'll read on. After these whales seemed to disappear, I stayed alert as the crew members perched their umiak, must be a boat of some sort, closer to the action on the opposite side of the lead. With no warning, the sea erupted in front of me. Out of a yawning black hole, just 30 feet from where I was, standing on a raised ice floe, a huge bowhead, that's a whale, filled the sky with a full breach. My big lens was about as useful as a torpedo in a trout stream, while my smaller telephoto would only have caught a blurred section of the animal. I watched in awe as the whale seemed to hang in the air before crashing into the sea with a wave that forced me to jump back as it washed past my stance. My immediate sense of disappointment over missing the shot gave way to the realization of what I had just witnessed. The inner glow of having seen one of the most powerful natural spectacles of my life began to erase my sense of loss of a photograph, even though a person with a wide-angle point and shoot might have easily gotten one. Indeed, my pursuit of photography hadn't failed me after all. I never would have witnessed such an event without my passion to make photographs. And in a larger sense, I remain beholden to outdoor photography for leading me to most of the great visual events of my life. Here you are. Does that whet your appetite for this question? Do we really need to take pictures? Do you really need a camera? So, do we need to take them? Some years ago, I'm just reading off of this here again. Some years ago, my wife and I probably told this on this channel before. My wife and I were attending Outback Australia in New South Wales in a town called Broken Hill. And we were out at a popular area on the outskirts of Broken Hill with beautiful natural rock formations and things. And it was quite a tourist area because some people had erected these statues there that looked a bit like the statues on Easter Island, you know, these and they, to me, they didn't look natural. They blended in color-wise with the natural rocks on the landscape. But to me, why would you put something like that out and take away from the natural environment? So I didn't really take any photographs myself at the time, but there was lots of other people around there taking photographs. And there was a couple, I think they were an American couple who were retired and spent most of their life traveling around the world. And they didn't have a camera. And I said, "You haven't got a camera. Why aren't you taking photographs?" And they said, "No, we made the decision some time ago that we just want to remember things as we saw them in our minds, and we'll recall the memories. We don't need to take away from the existence of having a camera up to our eye all the time." So I thought, yeah, I can see a lot of sense in that. And that's similar to what this man was saying and what we've already been talking about. So, do we need to buy new cameras all the time? Yes and no. Cameras break down like our bodies. The best camera is our eyes and our brain. They enable us to capture images on a physical camera. As the eyes enable us to do this, but the brain also stores those images for us while we're doing that. All the cameras I have, some have died and some need expensive repairs or can be written off as too hard or need replacing. I can probably find another one that works on the internet. So which camera will last longer? Our natural one, or the beautiful instruments we all covet and are urged to get the latest or go back to the old days of film and get a film camera? What deserves more maintenance and thought? Our health or our cameras? For me, part of the reason I am a photographer is because I've always been intrigued and in awe of the world around us. The complexity of the wonder of it all helped me to believe in a creator God. There was a popular song back in the 60s by the Bachelors, an Irish group of three guys, and it was they did a remake of the song called "I Believe," and this shares a little bit of what I think whenever I'm looking at the world around us. And they were saying this is the lyrics from "I Believe." "I believe for every drop of rain that falls, a flower grows. I believe that somewhere in the darkest night, a candle glows. I believe for everyone who goes astray, someone will come to show the way. I believe, I believe, I believe above the storm, the smallest prayer will still be heard. I believe that somewhere in the great somewhere, someone in the great somewhere hears every word. Every time I hear a newborn baby cry, or touch a leaf, or see the sky, then I know why I believe. I believe above the storm the smallest prayer will still be heard. I believe that someone in the great somewhere hears every word. And every time I hear a newborn baby cry, or touch a leaf, or see the sky, then I know why I believe. We're going to switch from the song to this now. The Life of Birds by David Attenborough. This is an old VHS set. I've actually got this on DVD as well. Wonderful set on birds. And people like David Attenborough are also intrigued enough to make many wildlife documentaries showing the wonder of it all. I love seeing what his camera people can do and the priceless vision they capture and share with us. I'm going to go across to another song now. Do you see what I see? Do you hear what I hear? We all see and hear what we want to hear, don't we? We also interpret things and see things our own way, mostly. Do You Hear What I Hear is a song written in October 1962, and it was a Christmas song, and it was penned by a then husband and wife couple called Noel Regney and Gloria Shane, and they wrote it as a plea for peace during the Cuban Missile Crisis. That's an interesting thing, isn't it, when we've got such a crisis going on with Ukraine and Russia and everything. And we thought that was bad enough at the time, but this is, believe me, feels a lot more worse. The Cuban Missile Crisis didn't actually not much ever happened. And it fizzled out, but the one over in Ukraine, it's not fizzled out, has it? Anyway, they were challenged to write this. They wrote this, and Regney was inspired to write the lyrics. Said the night wind to the little lamb, do you see what I see? And pray for peace, people everywhere. After watching babies being pushed in strollers on the sidewalks of New York City, Shane stated in an interview years later that neither could personally perform the entire song at the time they wrote it because of the emotions surrounded by the Cuban missile crisis. Our little song broke us up. You must realise there was a threat of war at the time. I'll go on. I'm swapping around a bit here, aren't I? Our eyes and senses, the subconscious, and photography and more. It is amazing how viewing pics in my archives, and believe me, I've got thousands and thousands of pictures in my archives, both film and digital. It's amazing how viewing the pics in my archives immediately transports me back to a time and place that is obviously still in my memory banks, but photos can bring it out. And this can be good or bad. And it's amazing how as soon as I see a picture taken long ago, I am immediately transported back to that time and that place and that happening. There are, but many, as I said, many things in our subconscious are really wonderful. Maybe I didn't say that. It can be good and bad to be transported back in our memory banks. Many things in our subconscious are really wonderful when we remember them. But there are images and thoughts and feelings that can rise into our conscious minds and disturb us. They can be triggered off by photography, particularly horrible images of war, and also images that remind, particularly if we've been involved in it, think of what's happened to some of the people overseas at this time, in this time and age and day. And those images remind such people, and us if we've been involved, of heartaches from the war images, what's happened to our families, and also even a relationship gone wrong that can bring back and create sad memories. At the same time, you're reviewing happy memories, but there's a sadness when you see that that relationship is no longer there. So I'm going to put a link underneath of how all these tensions and emotional problems that we have deep down in our subconscious mind, the things that can be triggered up by photography and images, can actually be healed through faith. I'll put a link underneath to a Christian sermon that talks about that. But I'm not majoring on that at the moment. But if you want to care to have a look at that and listen to that, There's actually a taped address about that, about healing for damaged emotions. Anyway, after all this discussion, I guess I will still take pictures and maybe make getting a newer replacement camera much less desirable. What will you do? What do you make of these words in Amazing Grace? I once was blind, but now I see. Do you see what I see? Do you hear what I hear? Interesting questions I'm posing here tonight, I think. I'm just going to swap off and finish off with a little slideshow. I think I've got it here, of some flowers. This is just illustrating the wonder of creation, the wonder of nature. Taken up at Harndorf in the Adelaide Hills one spring a couple of years back now, in our garden. I'll just go through some of these. You just look at the complexity and the beauty of flowers and the colours. Did they just happen by chance? Of course, using a camera and blurring out the background like that is something we all like to do, isn't it? Not all of these can I remember when I actually took them, although if I go back through the information that's on the computer, I can work it out. These were photos that I took at my dad's funeral more than 20 years ago, actually. After the funeral, I took these on my Pentax 645. Slide film, that was. That's a film shot. A few little marks there. Australia's golden wattle. A sunflower. A little bit of special effects there. Jonquils, I think they are. Lovely rings in the background, the bokeh. Cobwebs. Perhaps I'll finish there, just to give you some idea of, I mean, there's so many other things that we can admire around the world to make us think and ponder what's going on out there. So I'll come back. What will you do? Will you continue to take photos, or will you just chuck your camera away, or just keep it all in your mind's eye? Or can you work out creative ways of using your camera to share some of the good that's in the world? I firmly believe in using your camera for good, or if you're a believer, using your camera for God. So I think I'll finish there. So thanks for watching, and like if you like, subscribe if you wish, and I'll see you next time. And don't forget to look up Galen Rowell and all about him, and I'll put that link underneath to that Healing for Damaged Emotions link that you can follow. I'll see you later.